Hello and welcome to another Pocket Talk. This is Chris the Pocket Master and I'm here to review the Game Gear's Mcwill LCD screen mod. I'm going to talk about my personal experience with the mod, the features it has, and the pros and cons I have noticed within this new Game Gear I have. So, let's get started. Remember the early 90s when the Game Gear hit the gaming scene? Well, if you do, then you most definitely remember the impressive screen that came with it at the time. The games were in color and you could watch TV on it. It was the direct competitor to the Game Boy. Everyone thought the Game Gear would come out on top. Not only was it in color, but the screen was backlit, which meant it could glow in the dark. And it had Sonic games on it. During my elementary school days, all of the kids were so impressed with the Game Gear. Everyone wanted one, including me. However, over time, the Game Gear failed due to poor battery life. And it also didn't help the fact that Pokemon came into existence on the Game Boy, which killed any hopes of Sega keeping the Game Gear alive. If we look at the Game Gear now, it looks pretty bad. The screen is faded out and it has ghosting. Ghosting happens when the images move at a fast rate and makes the animations look blurry. Games like Sonic can be very difficult to play with ghosting. Luckily, technology progressed and we have modders that want to preserve or enhance older portable gaming consoles. Since there are modders out there, the Mcwill screen exists. Now, I just want to say that I do a lot of soldering work. I have worked on bass guitars, electric guitars, motherboards of home consoles, and even replaced the Neo Geo Pocket's LCD screen. But none of that comes close to the work one has to put into modding a Sega Game Gear. So I had someone do it for me because all I want to do is just play, enjoy the console, and of course talk about this on my channel or my webpage wherever I put this video on. The new features it has are the beautiful bright colored screen, the filter toggle option, and the zooming in and out functions. The choice of filter you get are scan lines, which some retro gamers love to use while playing. It makes the screen feel as we once remembered it back in the day when our eyes weren't as sensitive to utter shit. The zooming in and out functions can be beneficial to adjust to a specific monitor you're on if you decide to plug your Game Gear into a monitor. That's right, this thing could have the option to connect a VGA cable to it, but I didn't want to go that far with it. We can no longer adjust the brightness and the contrast like we were able to on the original screen, but that is okay. Now let me talk about the pros of this screen. Like I mentioned before, it has a bright and colorful display. The comparison to the original is night and day. The Mcwill screen is far superior than the original. If you want to play your Game Gear and relive how you felt about it back in the 90s, this is how you do it. You'll be playing for hours every day, like me. Games like Sonic, Zenki, and the GG Shinobi look fantastic on here. Remember that SMS converter? If you bought that thing back in the day, do you remember buying it and having a hard time seeing Master System games on the Game Gear's low resolution screen? Well, those struggles are all gone now because you could see the SMS games perfectly on here. It makes games like Govelius, Alex Kidd and Shinobi World, Phantasy Star, and Fantasy Zone a lot easier to play. You could read the text a lot easier while playing RPGs and see those projectiles coming at you in Fantasy Zone. The battery life can be considered a pro because the battery life hasn't been negatively affected in this mod. In fact, I think it improved it a bit. My original Game Gear lasts for about 3.5 hours, and the Mcwill modded Game Gear lasts for about 5 hours and 3 minutes. I have timed both Game Gears and played both extensively using the same brand of batteries before doing this review. So I can safely say that the Mcwill screen does extend the battery life a bit. I know the pros look great, but there are cons to having the Mcwill screen too, and they are very important to pay attention to. The first con that comes to mind is the toggle filter and the zoom feature. It is a nice feature, don't get me wrong, but if you're playing a game that requires you to push start as a command, you can activate the toggle command on accident. It can be frustrating when you're playing games like Mortal Kombat or Virtua Fighter Animation, but if you are careful, you can get around it. Another con can be that the color isn't pixel perfect. Some people may say that the color may seem dry at times, but those certain individuals are just very picky about displays. I honestly think it is fine, and it is a lot better than the original tubed screen. The third con I will mention is the amount of work you have to do to mod this thing. It looks like it takes a lot of patience and a lot of soldering skills. These skills are something I wish I have, but I do not. If you have the skills and patience, then power to you. This mod is worth it. I can tell you that for sure. The final and the main con is the battery situation it has. Now this is very, very important. And I'm not sure if anyone is talking about this online, but it needs to be said because there is a chance you could mess up your Game Gear unintentionally. Just mess it up on accident. I did just talk positively about the battery life, but if you use certain batteries, you could damage the Mcwill Game Gear mod. The Mcwill mod cannot take AA batteries that have a voltage lower than 1.5. Rechargeable AA batteries typically have a voltage of 1.2 volts each. If you multiply 1.2 by 6, that equals 7.2 volts in total, which isn't enough to power the Game Gear properly. If you go ahead and put rechargeable batteries in the Game Gear, it will power on for about 3 hours, then it will overheat the power board and destroy it. This process is called undervolting. Typically, undervolting is good. It is a practice used for computers. It decreases the energy used to power on a computer. And the reason why we do it is so that the computers won't overheat. However, in the Game Gear's case, it's bad. The Game Gear's definition of undervolting is when you're not giving enough power to turn it on, but you use the power you have anyway to turn it on. People do this to devices all of the time unintentionally. Let me think of a device from today that can relate to this situation. Let me think. Oh yeah, the phone. A cell phone of all things. Let's say your phone needs to take a charger that is 12 volts, but you only have a 5 voltage charger, and so you charge your phone on that because that is probably all you have. It will charge your phone, but it will take a long time, and it will make that charger work harder. Ultimately, it will destroy that charger over time if you keep using it, and shorten the lifespan of your phone's battery. That is what is happening to the Game Gear, but instead of shortening the lifespan of your Game Gear, you are destroying its power source. I recommend using AA batteries that have a voltage of 1.5 for the Game Gear. You won't undervolt it because 1.5 times 6 is 9 volts, which is what the Game Gear needs to power on properly. If you have good voltage, your system will work with no problems. I also recommend using a Sega brand AC adapter as well, or a standalone 9 voltage AC adapter. Do not use one of those adapters that can switch voltages because those are typically unstable, and the Game Gear has always hated those adapters. Overall, this is a great mod for the Sega Game Gear. Just be careful with how you play it. Be very mindful on which batteries and AC adapters you use. There's also a rechargeable battery mod for it as well if you're interested in doing that. I heard it's safe and not very hard to do at all. Well, that's all for this Pocket Talk. I will see you all in the next video. This is Chris, the Pocket Master of Phoenix Splash Gaming, signing off.